Thank you, Mr. President. I take this time to talk about the Tax Relief Unemployment Insurance Reauthorization and Job Creation Act, the tax package, the Senate Amendment 4753. This is the tax bill that we've been talking about for the last several weeks. And the first thing I just want to point out to my colleagues that this bill is a result of a compromise. And like any compromise, there's some provisions that I strongly support, and there are provisions that I would have preferred not to see in this legislation that I opposed. And you have to evaluate the positive aspects as well as those provisions that I would prefer not to be included. There's some very important provisions that are included in this legislation that I fought long and hard to make sure we accomplished before the Congress adjourns this year. First and foremost is a provision that would extend the current tax rates for middle-income families. If we don't do that by December 31st, those tax rates would go up and the withholding schedules would be changed. The bill also extends unemployment insurance, a matter that I have voted on the floor, when I've spoken on the floor about, the fairness and the importance to our economy of extending unemployment compensation benefits for those who are unemployed, giving the more recent unemployed the same benefits we gave the earlier unemployed during this downturn in our economy. Those benefits would be available through 2011. I think that's an extremely important provision, not just for the individual who depends upon it in order to pay her mortgage or to pay his bills, but I think it's important because it speaks to the fairness of our society during a recession. This is an insurance program. It is meant to provide benefits to those who have been in our workforce who have lost their jobs. And as I will point out also, it's very important for our economy as far as our recovery is concerned. The legislation also extends the refundable child tax credit. This is very important to middle-income families in our community for that child credit to be available, and it's refundable, which is a provision that helps the lower-wage families particularly. It extends the American Opportunity Tax Credit to help middle-income families be able to afford college education for their children, up to $2,500 a year. That can make the difference between a person being able to go to a college or not, or go to the school that they want to go to, which is not only important for that family, it's also important for our country. Investing in education is our best investment in order for America to be competitive internationally. The legislation also extends certain green energy tax credits. Well, that means jobs. Investing in green energy will help our economy create and keep jobs here in America. It's very clear to me from the constituents in Maryland that during these tough economic times, it's the wrong time to increase rates for middle-income families. And I made it clear that I'd do everything I could to make sure that wouldn't happen. The largest amount of the $858 billion that this package provides in tax relief, the overwhelming amount will go to benefit middle-income families and create jobs. But there are other provisions that were included in this package that I don't believe are helpful for job growth in America. I don't believe they're worth the cost for the jobs that it may create. And I want to refer to two of those provisions that I strongly object to and would have preferred not being in this package. The extension of tax breaks for the higher income wage earners. They'll do very little to spur additional economic growth. Let me just give you an example. If you're making $1 million a year and you get the thousands of dollars of tax relief provided under this legislation, the odds that you're going to spend more and help stimulate the economy is very remote. It's another thing if you're unemployed and you're getting an unemployment check, that money's going to get right back into the economy and will help create jobs. But people who are well-off, millionaires, the economic benefit of extending these tax rates are very marginal, very minimal compared to the cost of extending the tax breaks for our wealthiest. It's consistent with how I voted last Saturday. Last Saturday I voted to extend the tax rates for those under $1 million. I thought that was the right way, a good compromise. Unfortunately, the bill we have before us extends the tax rates for all taxpayers. The second provision that I strongly object to being in this package is the estate tax relief. The estate tax relief would provide for the next 2 years families with $10 million of an estate or lower to be totally exempt from the federal estate tax, and would reduce the rate to 35%. Now, this affects those who benefit from that are the upper 1/4% of the families in this nation. Quite frankly, I don't think in these tough economic times that's going to have much stimulative effect on job growth in America, and the revenues we lose could have been used in a better way, I believe, for deficit reduction, which would have been, I think, a stronger positive effect on our economy. I thought we had a reasonable compromise on this issue. I thought we had a reasonable compromise to go back to the 2009 rates. In 2009, as you remember, we had gotten up to $3.5 million per person, that's $7 million per family, and a 45% tax rate. I thought that was a good compromise, and I'm disappointed we didn't come back to that compromise. I think if we did that, there would have been a much stronger consensus, not only in this body, but in the House for this package. So there's a good part of this package which I support. There's one other good provision in there I want to point out. In regards to the 2 last provisions and others that are spelled out, it provides only relief for the next 2 years. In other words, it's temporary relief. It'll expire at the end of 2012. I think that's a good provision, because that means that we are going to need to deal with the budget deficit. As I said earlier, once our economy starts getting back on track, once we get these unemployment rates down to a reasonable level, then we have a much better chance of dealing with the budget deficit. One more very positive aspect to this package that I want to bring up. And this is one of the first, this is a major bill dealing with a serious problem in our nation. And we got Democrats and Republicans working together. I can tell you that when I talk to my constituents in Maryland, they tell me that this institution is too partisan. They like a lot of the things that we've done, but they don't like the fact that we can't get Democrats or Republicans allowing the system to work with the give and take that should take place in this most deliberative body. Well, we've done it on this issue. We may not like everything that's in it, because when you do compromises, there are going to be things in it that you don't always agree with. But the system has worked. It includes a lot of what I like, a lot of what my Republican colleagues like, and together we've produced a bill that's going to help our economy. And I would hope that this would be a model of things to come. I hope it is an indication that we will be able to work together across party line to deal with the major challenges of our nation. We need to put our national business first over partisan agenda. So on balance, Mr. President, I'm going to support this package. I'm going to support this package because I think it's critically necessary for our economy. I think it provides the type of help for middle-income families that they need today. And I think it represents the way that our political system should operate, with the type of compromises that allow us to get to a conclusion dealing with major issues in our country.